I think Swans' output takes one of two forms, either becoming the monster or the victim. Letting yourself go haywire with lustful, vile instinct to revolt against the sick order of the world, or falling submissively beneath it and being mocked for that. Their drawn-out, torturous repetition just saturates my focus and fucks my physical state. I'm talking stomach in knots, airways restricted, bones tight. Every added tidbit is like a puncture to the skeleton. God forbid an actually hefty crescendo comes in and takes out every sense in my body like a tsunami. Time and time again, the instrumentals tear themselves apart, then pick up the pieces and build something else out of it. And I love that with their later works, at the initial point of discovery, it's a gradual reveal how far-reaching and scenic their scope is. It's like they have multiple tanks of energy in backstock. And I also think at this stage it's hard to grasp how to receive it emotionally because the repulsive and gruesome leak into the ethereal and the awe-inspiring and vice versa. These extremes that dictate the world are too close for comfort, really. Like, any frills that make day-to-day cycles seem worthwhile are shaved away and you're just face to face with flesh-crawling truths. Their last LP, The Glowing Man, let seething tension take the upper hand over repetitive muscle. It was always on the move through these pits of doom, like running through stormy pastoral scenes with scarecrows blowing in the wind and flocks of birds above graveyards, whereas many standout moments of leaving meaning glitter and ripple like a taste of the deep sea. Sometimes it hits like a release, like the second cut baptizing you in these sheen, crystally drones with delicacies dangling overhead, but elsewhere it's more like free-falling or plummeting than it is flying. Like the nub, which trembles with disordered keys and ceremony-commencing drum rolls and strings and chimes that sound like they're restlessly puffing out from the impact of maybe like the Grim Reaper washing up on the shore of a shipwrecked voyage to collect all the corpses, with this gray-green sky and washed-up algae and remnants of disaster scattered everywhere, and it has this female vocalist, Baby D, that sounds just demented, possessed entirely. If this record could be called meditative, it's the most bitter form of that. I mean, Gira's vocal dominance and the drones that shudder as if they've been touched by some kind of ghostly phantom still send shivers up your spine, which, to be honest, fits the songwriting, encouraging you to embrace meaninglessness, or hell, let it smother you. This line of thinking is rational, it's just tough for us beings to fathom because we have this obsession with like frantically dreaming up spiritual conclusions to mundanity because that's the only illusion of total peace we'll ever have. I kind of do the same. But a core part of the lyrics is also that sticky muck you land in and all of your dead-end attempts to fight it. They're full of contradictions, they hesitate and topple over themselves, but really I think that's representative of how your mind moves when faced with such an impenetrable issue. They tend to resort back to either the power in boosting any idea or thought into a tangible art form, dope, or relationships that border on parasitic, where you leech off the idea of each other, you're running on this conjured up pipe dream of a profound connection, while to the outside world it's abundantly clear that this is more of a spreading infection between you two than anything. On songs like Cathedrals of Heaven and Aniline, the dynamic is totally nonsensical and overdriven. It's portrayed as a wish to dissolve inside someone's physical anatomy, or them being what calms you with one foot in the grave because their being is all you'll ever be and have, and you cannot and will not find anything greater. The writing just time and time again enthusiastically stomps down these bizarre sadistic paths, like the hanging man uses being hung halfway dead as a metaphor for living with a devil-may-care attitude, just nonchalantly destroying yourself. But while this track's guitar line has a certain slither and you can just feel the hot breath of the chords that follow, it only throttles in that first impression, like the piece is simply begging for a more substantial home stretch. My issues with Sunfucker are actually completely flip-flopped, because the longer it marches onward, the more convinced I am by it, but any section isolated from what neighbors it just sounds pretty flavorless. It doesn't help that off the bat, the placement of those horror film screams directly in the window where Gira elongates his speech just turn me off a bit. And really, dude, it's hard to push away my gut feeling that Swans have sold this drilling, stabbing repetition with a more convincing flair in the past. And these moments are exactly how Leaving Meaning is faced with an identity crisis, and why it's not its own monstrosity in the Swans' discography in the way it could be. Some New Things uses a few tried and true Swans techniques that I just dig, though. First, babbling incoherent chants, because I have to imagine this is all Gira's tangled insides can croak out in moments of suffocation. And a fade-in technique. Since Swans are all about what concretely builds you from point A to point B, it's disorienting when a passage materializes from nothing. But, like, to what result, because the meat of the instrumental here is still pretty mild, and the lyrics are quite wishy-washy, especially in the middle stretch. I'm not even convinced they comprehend themselves, so I have to assume this is intentional, but I don't know, a few fragments spark some real thought out of me. And I read it loosely like a love song, both for another person and for your thoughts. But regardless, I do full-heartedly believe that this triggers a shift in the energy of the writing to be more poised and content in the following two tracks. What Is This reads like mustering up the courage to bite the bullet and feel confident and surrender, and that was the whole thing from the start, right? The guitars have such a weighted, burdensome wail, and then it progresses with what sounds like twinkling shackle streams and opens up into this whirling melody with such grace at the end. And plus the line, "There's a star in my throat, in a void there is hope," is like printed out in papyrus font and put it on your bedroom wall levels of tear-jerkingly beautiful to me. And then the closer I see as this revolving vision of Gira trying to fill himself up with his own words. They govern the track foremost, they blabber on and stumble over each other, and truly, it's like he's staring himself down in a mirror, just scolding his soul into believing this love is true and real and here to stay. It's pretty unconvincing. The title track, though, oh my god. Dude, that is like the diamond of the track list. Like, the piano's this loose, glassy swivel, and the swipe of the guitar strings and the microscopic dings just give me the sense they're holding on for dear life. The writing is so plain-spoken, yet perceptive, just repeating that nothing ever feels like it should. Nothing's ever completely sound, and you won't fully reap the benefits of what you work for because everything on earth is an illusion of itself, just a blurry mirage that dissipates. And also, there are a few mixes that balance everything on a pretty similar platform, and they raise to crescendo pretty linearly too. No instrument necessarily hogs the focus. I'm talking about Cathedrals of Heaven, the reworked Amnesia, and It's Coming, It's Real. And I don't know if I would resort to this style 3 times, like, I would probably only leave the decision in It's Coming, It's Real, because I think the earthly imagery there is just as grounded, and it also spurs automatic association to peace and clarity, even if the core goal of the metaphors is to discuss the senseless torment that people are raised in, especially considering the toxicity of oil and rust and etc. It's like reaching out to the planet for embrace, even though it'll fuck us. So holistically, Leaving Meaning triggered some worthwhile thoughts out of me, but it's not so much a refined, returnable album experience, I think. But there's plenty of Swans material already out to enjoy, so I'm certainly not complaining that they've added a couple tracks to their catalog of highs, even if it comes at the expense of some less than thrilling lows. So yeah, I'm feeling a 6 out of 10 on this one personally. Check it out if you're a Swans fan. Of course, I'm sure you already did. Thanks so much for watching my review, and I will see you in the next one. Or sometime. I don't know.